9/11, 2002, 1 year after the bombing of 9/11, 2001, I graduated from university. So I graduated in the US 2002 after 5 years engineering. Yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer by profession with a minor in economics. Don't ask me where the fitness all came in. Now I call it body engineering. And I figured because there was a sense of fear of flying. I have general sense of fear of flying anyways. But I felt the best time to travel back to Malaysia is September 11th, 2002. Because who in the world would want to do anything on the anniversary of 9/11? Because that's when security would be, at its peak. And just before boarding the plane, I was randomly selected, which again, I expect. And if I were in their shoes, I would pick me as well, just to be sure. It is, you can call it racist, you can call it racial discrimination, but if you are in their shoes, you probably do the same thing juga demi keselamatan negara kau. So I was called to the side, and a stewardess was going through my carry-on luggage and took everything out, one thing at a time, And I had a sajadah in my carry-on out of respect and nak semayang dekat airport ke apa. And I had a Quran in my carry-on as well, which again is out of respect. Just like perhaps somebody who is Christian would carry a Bible in their carry-on juga out of respect. So she took out the Quran, fine. She took out the sajadah from the carry-on, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So then she took out my toiletry bag, and she looked at all the compartments. And in one of the compartments, many years ago, or 2-3 years ago, I put a hunter's knife in it. There was a hunter's knife in my toiletry bag, which I totally forgot I put it there. And in my mind, I was screaming like, "Oh my God, I have a hunter's knife in my carry-on." And now this lady is looking at a 22-year-old Muslim student on a one-way ticket out of Boston with a Quran, a sajadah, and a hunter's knife in front of her. And she was totally calm. And I told her how I understand how this must look. And I was very apologetic, but she did not seem to make a big deal out of it. She seemed very calm and did not raise any alarms. But then she asked me to wait, and she got her colleague to come, and who then brought the Boston police. So the Boston police looked at it as well, very calmly, and asked me to follow them. They looked at my passport, my boarding pass, and they asked me to follow them into a room. Then they asked me a bunch of questions, and then they told me that they have to hand me over to the FBI because this is out of their jurisdiction. So I was in a room waiting for FBI agents to come. And they came, again, very calmly, very professionally, not intimidating or any kind of waterboarding tactics, no such thing. And they asked me a lot of questions about my purpose in the US, my motive of going back, why was there a knife in my carry-on, and so forth. And I was not trying to talk too much, but just answer their questions very specifically and non-threateningly, and hope that they do their job without perhaps jumping to conclusion. But in my mind, because you start hearing about Guantanamo Bay and a lot of these not by the book tactics. So in my mind, I was thinking like, oh my God, what are they going to do to me? Because they might just be sure this guy is not going to do anything, just lock him up for a while, just to be sure nothing happens. So they asked me to wait for a while. I wasn't handcuffed or anything, but I wasn't allowed to leave the room. I was told there's no way I will be able to board the plane, and they would have to check and see what to do next. And they came back, and they told me that I am not on a terrorist wanted list. And I'm like, thank God, I'm not on any list. Why would I be? But I did not say why would I be. I just said, yes, I'm not a terrorist. This was just a dumb mistake. I'm very unfortunate, but yes, I am not a terrorist and I should not be on any list. So what they then told me that I am allowed to leave, but not allowed to board the plane today. So then the airline came then next and allowed to rebook the flight for tomorrow. Now, story doesn't end here. When I arrived at the airport the next day, it's just the same flight, Boston to London. I was immediately at arrival to the airport greeted by police. Yeah, immediately handed over from my friend, and the police were waiting at the check-in counter for me. And I had an escort all the way from check-in through all the security up until I boarded the plane. I'm assuming, just to be sure, I don't meet anyone at the airport who's going to hand me something else to then do whatever. And there was a guy there who worked the counter the previous day and the same day, who works for the airline. And he looked at he was my age, very young guy. And he looked at my boarding pass while we were going through security with the police. And he told me, this marking on your boarding pass means that you are a very, very suspicious person. Which, yeah, okay, fine. If I were them juga, I would have done the same thing. So I was a very, very suspicious person and escorted with police through all the security. You can imagine all the eyes on me and what they must be thinking. And then I boarded the plane, and I was the last person to board the plane, handed over by the police to the cockpit or plane crew. And as you can imagine, all eyes are on me as a person like, oh no, who is this guy and why is he being treated so differently? I'm sure they all must have thought that I am a terrorist or something must be wrong with me. So then I was told, for my comfort, I'll be given a middle aisle all to myself. This was a Boeing maybe 767 with a middle aisle with 4 seats, and the row was given all to myself initially, or so I thought. But then after about 5 minutes, there was another gentleman who was placed at the other end of my aisle, my middle row. And I am sure he was a marshal for the airplane. I didn't talk to him at all. I didn't speak to anyone. I didn't ask for any orange juice for the entire flight. I didn't sleep. I didn't go to the toilet. I just sat down on my seat for the 5-6 hour flight from Boston to London. And as we landed in London, I assumed that the US security or agents and whatnot would have communicated something to London. And I was expecting there to be some kind of handover to, I don't know, airport police or somebody else. But there was none. I was just allowed to roam freely in London. I thought that maybe they assume, it's your problem now, UK, deal with it. Our job is done. So all in all, experience might be unpleasant, but everyone I dealt with, from the airline to the airport staff to the Boston Airport Police, because they have police for every different things. They have even university police, and including the FBI, everybody dealt with the issue extremely professionally without jumping to conclusions